Blessed day, everyone. Thank you for visiting our YouTube channel. So, for the disclaimer, pictures and information shown in these slides is for general education purposes only. All information herein are provided in good faith, and I have no intention to claim nor to own it. As a continuation of our discussion, let us now proceed to the segment 3, which is deviant and delinquent behavior, which you can find it on page 67 of our book. So let us first define deviant behavior. What is meant by deviant behavior? When we consider that a person is acted with deviant behavior? Okay, deviant behavior is any behavior that is contrary to the dominant norms of society. Let us first define what is meant by norm. When we say norms, it refers to the rules or standards or behaviors shared by members of a group or society and defined by the common expectations of group with regard to the types of appropriate behaviors. A good example of the social norms or the standard norms is to respect and to honor our parents. So, contrary to that is considered deviant behavior is when the person disrespected his parents or her parents. That is already a considered deviant behavior. Okay? So, when a person hits the on the face of his friends without any valid reason, hitting the person without any reason at all may considered as deviant behavior because as the notion of the community, why did you hit your friend on its face? Which supposedly you must show your care to the friend, to your friend. If that is really your friend, you don't need or you did not hit him on the face. Okay, so that is what is meant by deviant behavior. There are two types of deviant activities. First is formal deviance, and second is informal deviance. What is the distinction between these two? One that is violation of formally enacted laws. When a person committed an act that is defined and penalized by the law, that is considered formal deviance. A good example, theft is defined and penalized by the law. When someone committed a theft, then he belongs to the category of the formal deviance. When someone committed a crime of murder, which is defined and penalized by the law, it is an example of formal deviance. On the other hand, informal deviance refers to violations of informal social norms. These are not crime. These are only the violation of the forbidden and prohibited by the uh, a good example is the tradition or even a culture. When no one should um, spit uh, on the floor as a disrespect, that because it may result to disrespectful to the person or to the owner of the house. That is a culture. So when you violated that culture, that is under the category of informal deviance. So these are an act that are not defined and penalized by the law. Because when these are acts penalized, defined and penalized by the law, then it will fall under the formal deviance. But if it is not defined or penalized by the law, which is only a traditional or a culture, it will fall under the informal deviance. There are some tribes who have their own traditions or even cultures. When someone who violated the cultures or traditions, they will undergo the process of they will undergo to the process where they will ask their uh, ancestors, or they have their own way of jury. Unlike in the formal defiance, when someone committed a crime, they will proceed to the or undergo the due process of our law. Okay, so while in formal defiance, they have their also ways of their jury, where it does not involve here the judge, but someone who will act as like a judge. Next is, let's talk about the deviance and criminology theories. So, heredity, neurotransmitter dysfunction are explained under the biology. Because someone says that development of behavior is a result of heredity. It is being inherited. When the father is a drug user, the son or the daughter may also consider someday, or perhaps the son or daughter will also become a drug user, since the father is a drug user. Just like also the generation of Lupin, since the Lupin, the first Lupin, is a thief, the son will also become thief, and it is reflected to Lupin the second and followed by the Lupin the third. And next is the neurotransmitter dysfunction, where also there is an effect. It says they say that it has an effect on the development of being a deviant behavior, because it does not go uh, to the normal process of a nerve, cells, okay, which result to the brain abnormalities that were caused by either of the above. That may give improper development or even a trauma. A good example of how this how this biological theories may explain, or that will purport that criminal behavior is the result of some flaw in the biological makeup of the individual, is the physiognomy. What is meant by physiognomy? It focuses, or it is the study of persons' physical characteristics, the facial figures, especially their face, in order to determine things about their personality. Looking at on his personal appearance, they are being judged. They are being judged by their looks. Where this physiognomy came from? Physiognomy came from the Greek word physis, means nature, and nomon, which means to judge or to interpret. Interpret. When the person has a vulture face, they may somehow say that the person is already a criminal. So it has a relation with the labeling theory. They are being labeled by its look. They are being judged by its look, which supposedly not. Physiognomy is where a person's facial features or expression, especially when regarded as an indicative of character or ethnic origin. Yan. It refers to the evaluation of a person's personality or character. Sometimes we say when the person is a handsome or a beautiful man, oh, I know he's good, she's good because she is good looking. He is a good looking. But when a person is uh, not handsome nor beautiful, when someone say, I don't like him, I don't like her because of his personal appearance. Yeah? So they are being examined through its personal appearance. Because it appears that by face personal appearance may indicate, or I'm referring to the outward appearance. Outward appearance may indicate the person might be a criminal or become criminal someday. Next is the phrenology. What is this phrenology? It comes from the Greek word mind and logos, knowledge, and this theory claims to be able to determine character, personality, personality traits, and criminal on the basis of the shape of the head. By looking at on its shape of the head, you can able to determine its character as well as its mental abilities. So what is really meant by phrenology? What does it study? It is study of the shape of the head, like I said a while back, through the examination and measurement of the bumps on the individual's skull. However, some uh, phrenologists or some researchers said that phrenology is not or cannot influence. Phrenology is invalid as a science, or it does not really uh, explain or does not really discloses the indication or how we indicate or how we can determine the character and mental abilities of a person by looking at on the shape of the head. Thus, this phrenology has been invalidated as a science. So, what makes it different to the craniology? What is craniology first? Craniology is by studying the morphology of the human body, including the skull. Anthropologists can make hypotheses about attributes that can be linked to race and sex. Craniology is also more on immediate interest. It is essential in forensic investigation to determine the sex and race of dead people when only skeletons remain. This can help solve a crime or determine the face of a missing person because you can able to determine by looking at on the shape of the skull. By examining the shape of the skull, you can able to determine it if it is it belongs to a male or a female. You can also determine its race, whether it is a Caucasian, Asian, Mongoloid. So it really helps this. It is essential to the forensic investigation if the only evidence that they have is the skeletons remain. Okay, so at this point, they can able to determine or they can have an idea to whom or to yes to whom or who is the person um, who owns that skeleton's remain. So what makes them different? What is the similarity of craniology and phrenology? Both practices they examine the conformation of the human skull. And what makes them different? Craniology is the study of differences in shape, size, and proportions among skulls from various human races. How about phrenology? On the other hand, phrenology deals with similar attributes of the skull, and but attempts to relate these things to character and mental facilities. Yan. Again, phrenology focuses more on the identification of the character and mental abilities by determining the shape of the skull, while the craniology determine the sex and race of the dead people. Again, craniology applies only when the evidence that you have is the skeleton or the remains. Next, we will talk about the positivist theory, atavism or born criminal. Cesar Lombroso said, who was the first to connect crime to human evolution. During his research, he identified that there are similarities on the physical features of those inmates. It appears on his result of his research that they have these common physical features, which is an indicative that or may conclude that the person is a criminal or become a criminal. Physical features include asymmetrical face, an innermost jaw, large or protruding ears, and as well as a receding chin. You may want to see the physical features of this, you may just search on the internet and you will see this appearance of these physical features that were indicated by Cesar Lombroso. So what is now the contribution of Ernest Alton? What Ernest Alton did is he supported the atavism or born criminal as disclosed by Cesar Lombroso. He also as well he linked this theory to the criminality to organic inferiority. This only means that these are kind of people who used to feel that they are weak or they are isolated among others or have this being deficient or somehow less than others as a result of negative feelings that they committed a crime because of this what they believe in themselves. Okay. Next is on the study made by Ernest Kretschmer and developed by William Sheldon. First is the physics theory. This theory was developed by Ernst Kretschmer in 1921, who suggested the following physics, and these are the following. First is the asthenic. This person is skinny, with ribs easily counted, and slender body type. Lean or slightly built with narrow shoulder. This type usually commits crime known as petty theft and as well as a fraud. They used to commit theft most especially because of their long arms, Okay? They said that yung mga payat is mahaba yung mga kamay. They used to commit theft. But somebody says that when your index a finger in your middle finger have the same length, they used to commit crime, pickpocketings. Or the middle finger and the ring finger have the same height because it's when these uh, two hands have this, two fingers have the same height, it makes them easy to get the uh, wallet or even cell phone inside the pocket of their victims. Then the second one is the athletic. This person has broad shoulders, powerful legs, and muscular body type, or these are usually medium tall in height, strong, and as well as muscular. And this type usually commits violent crimes because they use their uh, muscles, their strength to commit uh, physical injury. Okay, they can able to run or even to fight with other people because of their athletic type. They have their advantage over the others. And the third one is the picnic, which is the height is just a medium, or this person is stout, has short, stubby hands, and with round body or rounded figure, massive neck, and a broad face. And this type usually commits deception, fraud, and violence. In some says they commit rape because they use their weight to control over the woman. They use their weight to control over the woman when they execute their rape. And we have also the fourth one, which is the uh, this plastic or mixed type, which is the person has a body type that is less clearly evident, having any predominant type, or we may consider as unclassifiable. Any person with this body type usually commits an offense against decency and morality. These are when you cannot determine when the person is athletic or a picnic. You cannot say also if the person is asthenic or athletic. So that is why when these two are somewhat appearing to the physique of a person, this is classified as dysplastic or mixed type. Next is the somatotyping. It focuses of body builds of individuals indicating different temperaments that affect their abilities to engage in crime and delinquency. Like I said, this somatotyping is developed by William Sheldon in 1949 that using anthropometric methods, Sheldon studied the photograph bodies of some 4,000 men from front view, side view, and back view. He divided the physique of men through the contribution of three fundamental elements, which he called it, or which is called as somatotypes. And these are the three somatotypes. First is the uh, ectomorph or the ectomorphic. These are this person with lean, thin in appearance, or has a long arms and legs, short upper body, narrow shoulders, have a long and thin muscles, have a very low fat storage. They are usually referred to as a slim. Okay? So let me show you the a figure so that it's easy for you to understand. Look at these three somatotypes. Let us start with the ectomorph or the ectomorphic. Ectomorphs have the following characteristics: long arms and legs. Take a look on the picture. Short upper body, okay, as you can see, narrow shoulders compared with the other two somatotypes, have a long and thin muscles, which they are considered as slim, have a very low fat storage, have a higher proportion of nervous tissue, and have a cerebrotonic temperament. But when we say cerebrotonic uh, temperament, is referring to a person with a personality characterized by shyness, who used to become shy at all times. It, it refers also to persons who used to have examining himself, which is called introspection. And this person is dealing with emotional restraint. We believe that these are kind of person who try to examine themselves. They are shy. They even have this emotional restraint. So when we say emotional restraint, is the act of holding something back. For example, if you exercise restraint over your emotions, you won't burst out into tears in public. The ectomorph is the opposite of the endomorph. Those persons with ectomorph somatotype, they eat just as much as the endomorph but never seem to gain any weight. They always stay skinny. Pertaining to its personality, they tend to be self-cautious, socially anxious, artistic, thoughtful, quiet, and private because they are shy. They always keep to themselves and are afraid to branch out. That is the personality of the ectomorph. On the other hand, the mesomorph, which has a body type that is characterized by a high rate of muscle growth. They have large bones, solid torso combined with low fat levels, filled with energy, courage, and assertive tendencies because they are also be considered as an athletic type, have a wide shoulders with a narrow waist because all they gain the appropriate body shape because of the exercises, have a higher proportion of muscular tissue, and have a Junetian temperament. When we say Junetian temperament, or when a person with Junetian temperament, they like to operate without limits. They are very free spirited and live for the moment. So psychologically, the mesomorph is adventurous and courageous. They are not afraid to break out and do new things with new people. They are also the assertive and competitive and have a desire to have power and be dominant. So that is why some other people who wants to go to gym, they want also to they are competitive because of the strength. They are confident with their strength that they have, and they like taking risk and chances in life. That is for the mesomorph. Next is the endomorph. Endomorph showing fat, soft, and round body types. Their personality was described as relaxed, fond of eating, and sociable. They have wide waist and large bone structures, have a higher proportion of digestive tissue, and have a viscrotonic temperament. When we say viscerotonic, this person or this when the person has viscerotonic, they have the characteristic traits of being relaxed, as it was mentioned, tolerant, comfortable, and sociable. In psychological speaking, they are also fun-loving, good-humored, even tempered, and they love food and affection. So, what do you think, or which one among these three you are belong with? But the question is, are the what developed by William Sheldon correct? Profiling psychologically based on physical features is very unreliable, but these observations tend to be true. It could happen. There is a possibility that it may happen. There are chances. There is a probability and possibility that it may happen, but it will not apply to all. Some it may not happen, but some may happen. So perhaps we observe and we can say there are times that what William Sheldon said is existing, or perhaps sometimes is not. Next is the theory of XYY chromosome imbalance theory. So, given the Y chromosome's association with the male sex and with increased production in testosterone, many claims have been made in the research literature that XYY males are more aggressive and more violent. The question is, what causes XYY syndrome? The majority of parents with a son who has a XYY syndrome have normal number of chromosomes themselves. The extra Y chromosome occurs either during the making of the father's sperm or shortly after an egg and a sperm come together to make a baby at conception. It occurs by chance and it's not caused by anything that the parents did or did not do. It happened only. So again, those male with extra Y more likely to become aggressive and as well as more violent. The legal theory that holds that a defendant's XYY chromosomal abnormality is a condition that should relieve him or her legal responsibility for his or her criminal act, as on the legal theory. Next, let us talk about what Charles Goring said, that the primary source of criminal behavior is inherited characteristics rather than environmental factors. There is a relation to what is defined and discussed previously pertaining heredity. He said that it was not been absorbed or it is not any other factors that may influence the behavior of a person, but the factor that influenced behavior of a person is because of heredity. That is why he said that it is inherited rather than environmental characters. Like going back to what I asked a while back, are you amenable to what Charles Goring mentioned that it is uh, heredity. Okay? The behavior is being inherited. But some says there's some um, argued that it is not inherited by reason that it depends on how do they guide the child or their son and daughter as they grow up. They call it as child rearing, depending on how you guide the person or your son or daughter as they grow up. Because no matter how drunkard you are, but the way and the manner how you um, guide the child is considered a parental accepted, then it is said to be that you produced a good crops of a parental guidance. So what do we expect? The child will grow with good manners, with right conduct. Okay, so it is not heredity. It is not inherited, but instead it is a child rearing. Next is the psychological theories and as well as the psychoanalytical theory. So under the psychological theory, we have the psychoanalytical theory. It says that a child that is improperly socialized then could develop a personality disturbance that causes him or her to direct antisocial impulses either inward or outward. That psychoanalytical theory is symbolizes expressions of one's inner tension which a person but fails to control. It mentioned here it impulses either inward or outward. When we say inward, they tend to become a neurotic, and when it is outward, they tend to become criminal. So it's because of they are being improperly socialized, perhaps the reason why we don't let our children to go outside and mingle and socialize with the other people, they tend to become observant or something. There is an effect when children are not exposed to socialization, or perhaps they were not properly uh, guided to how do they mingle, how do they socialize with the other people. It's just because of there is a development of personal disturbance that that is why some other people who don't want to mingle or socialize, they are considered anti-social. They don't want crowded area. They don't want to speak with other people. They want only to speak to whom what to the persons whom he used to speak with when he was or she was a child. Okay, so that is a psychoanalytical theory. A good example is when I have a child and I don't let my child to go and to mingle or to play with other children, there is already a effect of of the development of my child. So when this child already or when my child grew up and I allowed him now to mingle with other people, my child may tend not to speak with them because he was not exposed when he was child. Okay, so there is a possibility that my child may not want to mingle, to socialize with other people, to speak with other people, or he is considered as anti-social. So there is, by the root causes of this is they were being improperly guided when they were child. So there is a cognitive development theory. Cognitive development theory, criminal and deviant behavior results from the way in which individuals organize their thoughts around morality and the law. We have here the stages that theorized by Lawrence Holberg. First stage, at the middle childhood, moral reasoning based on their or this stage is reached during middle childhood, moral reasoning based on obedience and avoiding punishment. This is how it develops our mindset of thinking that we must have to obey what our parents are saying or instructed or what they are instructing us to do because we don't want to be punished. So we have to obey in order to avoid punishment. We follow and we obey. At the second stage, at the end of middle childhood, this stage is reached during the middle childhood. Moral reasoning is based on the expectation that the child's family and significant others have for him or her. So, isn't it? Your parents may or your relatives may say, perhaps this person may become a doctor or even a police officer someday or a marine corps and so on and so forth. There is already expectations coming from your family, from your relatives pertaining your career or even your path or in the future. Next is the third stage. This stage is reached uh, during the early adulthood, at which point individuals are able to go beyond social conventions. When they will now go to socialize with other people, mingle with other people, that is the value, the laws of the social system. Since they are already exposed, they know already what are those forbidden and prohibited, so they are already aware and they know already how to comprehend things. If they know that it is violation, it is prohibited and forbidden by the law, they tend not to commit the violation or they will not violate it. Next is the um, structural strain theory, which is under the sociological deviance theories. Culture establishes goals for people in society, while social structure provides or fails to provide the means for people to achieve those goals. Because structural strain theory composed of both culture and social structure. So culture represents what members of social system collectively believe, and social structure represents what members of a social system collectively do. So again, when I say social structure, it is defined as the pattern relationship between people that persist over time. And when we say culture, It refers to groups, language, belief, values, behaviors, as well as gestures. So these two will explain a lot pertaining to structural strain theory. So the culture will establish goals for people in society, whilst social structure provides the means of people to achieve those goals. So when your culture says our generation shows that all our um, generations are um, employed as Philippine National Police. So we believe and we're expecting you to become one of them. So it's a culture which already created your goal to become a to become a member of the Philippine National Police. Then here comes now the social structure. It can provide or they may somehow they cannot provide on how are you going to achieve the goal to become a PNP. In a well-integrated society, people use accepted and appropriate means to achieve the goals and society establishes. In this case, the goals and the means of the society are in balance. It is when the goals and means are not in balance with each other, the deviance is likely to occur. So what will happen? The person or the implementer may somehow acting with deviant behavior. This imbalance between cultural goals and structurally available means can actually encourage deviance because there is a possibility that you don't want what they want you to become, or they cannot provide what you want to become, or if you did not achieve what you want to become. You want others, the culture, your generation wants you to become a PNP, but you don't want it. You don't want to become a PNP. Or let's say, for example, you accepted the goal, but they fail to provide you the uh, or yes, it fails to provide you what you need to achieve the goal to become a PNP. Or they try to fail you to achieve your goal, what culture established to become PNP. Next is the labeling theory by Frank Tannenbaum, Edwin Limart, and Howard Becker. Behavior becomes criminal if it is labeled as such. That according to labeling theory, official efforts to control crime often have effect of increasing crime. Individuals who are arrested, prosecuted, and punished are labeled as criminals. That there is what they called stigma. Even you have already, if you have it found out that you are not guilty or you are innocent, but since your name is flashed in the TV, the, some people's notion may say you are still a criminal, even it was found out that you are not guilty on the crime charged against you. Or after you have served your sentence, there's still the notion of the people, which we call it as stigmata, um, or stigma rather, that it may not erase other people's notion that you are still a criminal. Or the best way to explain labeling theory for you to understand it is a self identity and the behavior of individuals may be determined or influenced by the terms used to describe or classify them. When someone called you a thief, you may somehow become a thief. You are accusing a person that they are a robber, even he insists that he's not, but you keep on calling him a robber, perhaps that person will commit robbery, and the first target, uh, the the first target he might going to rob is the person who called him as robber. That is why they may say, sige na nga, tutuhanin ko na lang kung anong sinasabi mo kahit na hindi nga totoo. So what that might people think, what happened, or the root causes that the person thinks of those kind of mindset is because of the provocation made by other people. You call him a murderer, perhaps that person may become a murderer because you are accusing that person as murder. Of course, that is an offensive word. Like I said, words are sharper than 10 blades. So it is a lesson that we should not give any offensive word to other people because we are all human, that we know how it feels when someone gets hurt because of the offensive word. Okay? When we say social control theory, they are tend to or they are committed with the society. It is social control theory is also called as social band theory. It is based upon typical everyday activities. For instance, think about your daily routine of getting up in the morning and going to work every day. This is an example of an action that is done in accordance with the internal social control or self-control. It also conforms to the social expectations because of their attachment to others and what others expect of them. They will sacrifice things just to be with their friends because of their expectations. If let's say for example, buti pa ikaw napapayagan ka na kalabas, you can go wherever you want, you have money to spend on, and I do believe that you have something that you can travel with that we cannot travel. So that is an expectation. So what are you going to do? You go somewhere else that your friends did not yet uh, uh, visited. You go to the place where your friends did not yet did not yet visit the place. So Hershey's control theory is significant to crime prevention. This uh, instead of looking for factors that make people become criminal, this theory tries to explain why people do not become criminal. There is a possibility that um, when they have friends, good friends who can able to whom they can talk with, who can take good care of you, who can help you to grow matured, who can say that do not commit crime, do not make some violation of the laws. That is already the disclosure of controlling the person. Okay? And social boundary. If you have a good family, good friends rather, like for example in church, you go for the discipleship, you join for the ministry. Of course, there is a social band happening, which may also help you to grow spiritually, physically mature. Okay, so there is an attachment to others. There is also the conforming to the social rules, conforming to the existing laws. And We have this commitment to achievement. You are committed to get what you are deciding for, and you have this involvement in conventional activities. But for those person with low self-control is more likely to become criminal. Social bonds through peers, parents, and others can have a countering effect on one's low self-control or one's low self-control. For families of low socio-economic status, a factor that distinguishes families with delinquent children from those who are not delinquent is the control exerted by parents. There are four types of control. First is the direct punishment. Again, social control surely when you have a good banding, that is, we have that it's not you have a strong tie with your friends who can help you to grow, mature when you go with your friends or with your churchmate, you will grow spiritually. Of course, it will uh, redirect you or direct you on a good path. But when these social bands broken, or it may cause to one's low self-control, there is a possibility that the person may become or involved to become a criminal person. Because when we say low self-control, they are impulsive and intensive to others. They tend to engage in physical rather than mental activities, risks, and are oriented toward the short term rather than long term. Advocates of self-control theory argue that these characteristics result from parental child rearing practices and in the individual by about age 8, remaining stable throughout life. So, what causes the development of low self control? This happens when these children are not monitored or guided by the parents. Their bad behavior are not corrected. So, parents must have to monitor their children, recognize bad behavior. So they have to correct this bad behavior before it uh, may cause them to develop their deviant behavior. This happen also when there is a lack of discipline, lack of goals or purpose in life, most especially the lack of the discipline that may result in them to have a low self-control, that they may become a deviant someday. But when a person is also disciplined, well disciplined, monitored and guided, that person will not tend to engage in any criminal activities. So there are four types of control. First is the direct, by which punishment is threatened or applied to wrongful behavior. When a person is doing something bad, is doing bad behavior, they will get punished. So if a person is punished, he knows that his action is not good, thus he may somehow will not commit the same mistakes. Otherwise, he will be get punished again. So also direct includes the uh, threatened or applied to wrongful behavior, and compliance is rewarded by parents when a person also made a good behavior, or he made such action that will make their parents amazed, impressed. So what do the parents do? What the parents may do? They might going to give that child or their children or their child a reward of his action. Naglinis ka ng or hinugasan mo yung mga plato, you might going to increase your allowance, for example. But if not, you will get punished. Okay? Next is the indirect, that by which a youth refrains from delinquency through the conscience or superego. I don't want to commit a crime of rape because at the end, I feel conscience. Or hindi ako gagawa ng krimen. Kaawa naman ng bata. Kung yun na nga yung pinaka-pagkain niya, kukuhanin ko pa. Nakakaawa naman. Ay, through conscience, or do we call it as superego. And the third one is the internal identification with those who influence behavior. Say because his or her delinquent act might cause pain and disappointment to parents and others with whom he or she has close relationship. This happens when your close friends, your parents, may disappoint you, give you something uh, which may cause you into and feel you to pain, that drive a person to think uh, contrary to the social norms. The person might think maybe that person or my friend is not really my friend. He has appointed me. He caused me pain emotionally, or even parents did not get what I want, which which resulted me to my disappointment. I will not listen to them anymore. I will now act by my own. I will go wherever I want, even I am restricted by parents. I will disrespect or disobey them. That may that may explain internal. And next is the control through needs satisfaction when all above stated are met. Next is the differential association theory, or on theory of differential association. Criminal behavior is learned through social interaction in the process of communication. This theory states that crime is learned through interaction with other people, means through socialization with other people, which you learn in the process, under the process, through communication. Learning process includes technique of committing the crime, motive and attitude. Let's say, for example, you socialize with other people and just talk about how do they successfully took the cell phone of their targets or victims. So you are getting idea from them, and there is a possibility that you might going to adapt and apply what you have learned or what you have heard from them. So this happen only when there is a barkada. So for example, you join into a wrong band or maling barkada, there is a possibility that you may also become like them. Okay, so you are learning while staying at them, while you are exposed to them. So you are learning their behavior. You may as well become. You may also engage to their activities. Okay, so that is the differential association theory. You are socializing, mingling with different persons, and while you're mingling, socializing with other people, uh, pakisama, you are already learning and adapting their behavior as well as their activities. Next is the strain theory by Robert King Merton, or we call it as social strain typology. It says that it maintains that the failure of a man to achieve a higher status of life caused them to commit crimes in order for that status or goal to be attained. So this typology of deviance based upon the two criterias. Criteria first is person's motivations or his or her adherence to cultural goals. And the second one is the person's belief in how to attain his or her goals. Going back to the first one, person's motivations of his or her adherence to cultural goals, because as it was mentioned, that it is the uh, culture, when the culture establishes the goals, you have the desire that you don't want to disappoint those your relatives. Like for example, you want to become a PNP, but when you fail to do so, you tend to become a violent and as well as aggressive. And because of your person's belief that you can able to achieve the second one, person's belief in how to attain his or her goals, this is the you made a path, you made a ladder, or you made a stairs going up to attain your goal, but it happens that someone break it out, or you fail to do so, so you feel disappointment. So you tend to become a hot-tempered person, or you become aggressive. Let's say, for example, you want a cell phone, but your parents did not give you a cell phone. So there is already development of disappointment. There is already the link word here is the frustration. Frustration. You are frustrated of something that which you expect that you want to achieve it. So there are five types of deviance under the social strain typology, or under the strain theory. First is the conformity. It involves the acceptance of the cultural goals in means of attaining goals. Okay, you accepted what your culture, or let's say, for example, you want to become PNP, you accepted it because that is what your parents, relatives, cousins said to you. Next is innovation, acceptance of goals but rejection of the traditions. I want to become a PNP, but I will not accept that I will go under the process of traditions, or that is what you do. I want, or you may accept that you want to finish, you need to finish your study, but you did not accept to become a PNP as part of the generation. Okay, as part of the generation. You are, when you finish your study, you need to join with us to become a gang, to be a member of syndicate, because that is how what our family generation. So yes, I want to finish my study, but I don't want to become a member of the mafia, member of the gang, member of the syndicate. That is innovation. While ritualism, it is the rejection of cultural goal, but routinized acceptance of the means of achieving the goals. You don't want what uh, the manner how the the manner how they want to achieve the goal, but I will accept I will accept the uh, how the uh, sum of how I may achieve my goals. A good example is homeless person who is homeless more by choice. Sorry. Uh, Here is a good example. Delusions, bureaucrat, like Milton in the movie Office Space, who goes to work every day because it is what he does. but does not share the goal of the company of making lots of money. Okay, he has accepted the work to present himself, to report, but did not want to share the goal of the company of making lots of money. Even he has the capability, ability to help the company to gain profits, but he did not. Yung Rhetoricism, it is the rejection of both cultural goals and the tradition means. A good example is homeless person who is homeless more by choice than by force of circumstances, or a commune established separately from dominant social norms. Or, I'm sure, he did not accept what others people want him to do, and he did not accept the manner how it to be done. As for example, the goal is to be to report every 7 o'clock, even so that you may have time, a lot of time to finish after before the end of 5 o'clock. But the uh, contract states that you will start at 8 o'clock, but the company wants you to report at 7 o'clock so that you may able to finish more. Now the purpose is to finish more. You can able to finish more tasks. So retrievism will disclose that you don't want to report at early as 7 o'clock. You will report at 8 o'clock, and perhaps you will not finish the expected task before the end of 5 o'clock. So you reject both of cultural and as well as traditional means. Traditional means the manner on how are you going to achieve the goal. Again, the traditional means shows the manner on how are you going to achieve the goals. Next is the rebellion. It is the rejection of both goals in traditional means, but replacing both elements with different goals and means. Let's say, for example, a communist. You don't want the government's policy. You want to replace the government. You want to make your own policy, and you want to create uh, a new community. But the communists will outcast the government, the policy itself, and they want to become or the one who will replace them. Let's say, for example, I am a communist. I will going to ask the government to please resign from your position. I will going to uh, outcast the government, even the policy. Then I will replace them, or I will make a new one, a new government with my own policy. Okay, that is the rebellion. Next is we have also the social class conflict and capitalism theory. Under the according to Karl Marx, Friedrich uh, Engel, and Wilhelm, it claims that the ruling class in a capitalism society is responsible for the creation of criminal law and their ideological basis in the interpretation and enforcement of their law. And for conflict theory holds that social order is maintained by dominion and power rather than by consensus and conformity. When we say consensus is a group discussion where everyone's opinion are heard and understood and a solution is created that respects through those opinions. But this theory tends that There's no need for having a consensus, but to implement what they want and what they believe in, because they want to maintain dominion and power. For example of conflict theory, it can be used to look at wars, violence, revolutions, and forms of injustice and discrimination by explaining that there is a natural disparity in society that causes these problems. There is something to do with the rebellion as well to outcast the government. It is because of capitalism, conflict between the community and as well as the government. So in short, conflict theory is trying to oppose, contradict what the government's programs or contradict those programs and policies that are being implemented. Okay, to go against the government, or sometimes also capitalist or conflict theory. They want to go against those or will oppose and contradict those policies that are being made, like for example in the government or even in the private industries. Next is the contemporary approaches. We have here demonological theory. Individuals were thought to be possessed by good or evil spirits, which cause good or evil. When you possess by evil spirit, you perhaps to become a criminal. This theory maintains that criminal behavior was believed to be the result of evil spirits and demons, something of natural force that control his or her behavior. Okay? So that is what the demonological theory trying to emphasize. When you committed a crime, you are possessed with uh, evil, okay? Or you are possessed with evil spirits. Next is the anomaly theory. Crime is an important ingredient to all healthy society. Anomaly theory posits how broad social conditions influence deviant behavior. For example, if society does not provide enough jobs that pay a living wage so that people can work to survive, many will turn to criminal methods of earning a living. It is also explains that anomaly theory means the lack of normal ethical or social standards. It is the idea of anomy that a person chooses criminal activity because the individual believes that there is no reason not to. There is no reason why they should not commit crime. As it was mentioned a while back, when a person or if society does not provide enough jobs that pay a living wage so that people can work to survive or to sustain their daily needs, there is a tendency or possibility that they will turn to criminal to earn a living or to earn money to sustain their daily needs. Next is we have the cartographical or geographical school of criminology. Crimes against person increase during summer and crimes against property increase during winter. It is actually a, a phenomenon of crime that is closely related with the geography, climate, and altitude of the place where crime takes place. As it was already discussed on the seasonal, it has something to do with this. Um, People tend to commit crime of theft during the uh, winter season, or when summer season, because there are a lot of tourists who wants to go or to have a vacation. The geographical school attempts to show the influence upon behavior of such factors as climate, including temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, change in the weather, and so on. Kaya yung sabi ko noon, kapag naulan, lahat ng possible na magiging witness na sa loob. So yung mga taong napasok pa rin kahit na naulan, yun yung tinatarget nila. Walang makakakita sa kanila at lahat yung mga tao ay nasa loob at umuulan kasi. Next is the general inferiority theory. So criminals are originally inferior, and that crime is the result of the impact of the environment. That all humans experience feelings of inferiority as children and spend the rest of their lives trying to compensate for those feelings. These people whose thoughts are so overtaken by these feelings that they cannot function normally are said to have an inferiority complex, which was also mentioned a while back. That become because of lonely, they feel that they are uh, isolated or segregated or separated or are not being accepted by the people because of the impact caused by the environment. Next is evolution theory. Man is organism having an animalistic behavior that is dependent on other animals for survival. Thus man kills and steals to live. Like for example, the dog, they eat what people may throw or trash it, as long as they can use to survive, or they can eat for them to survive, they will have to. Even people may also do that. Sometimes they are also behaving like the animals. Okay, they used to pee somewhere else. They go to uh, do something uh, unaccepted behavior in the public. Like for example, having a sexual intercourse in the public is just like also the dog who are having sexual intercourse in the public. That is already an act of animalistic. So may I again reiterate that human or man does not came from ape. Next is the differential opportunity theory according by Lud Olin. It explains that society leads the lower class to what things in society does things to people. So this said that those upper class controls the lower class. That is why I have money. Then, if you want money, I will give you. Only when you followed my condition, my instruction. Go and kill Mr. Romeo, Mr. Alpha, Mr. Bravo. Go and kill them, and I will give you money. So those with in the upper class, those who are rich, control are controlling those poor or the lower class. Next is the human ecology theory. It maintains that isolation, segregation, competition, conflict, social contract, interaction, and social hierarchy of people are the major influences of criminal behavior and crimes. It is a way of looking at the interactions of human with the environment and considering this relationship as system. This human ecology theory happened when there is segregation, competition, conflict, social contract, interaction. It covers the other theories, when these are existing, may influence criminal behavior, which was already explained a while back. You are segregated, isolated by the people. Due to competition, you don't want to be lost to lose income. Okay? You want to burn the house of or the company of Bravo so that all the customers will just buy your products. Conflict outcast the government, outcast those who have positions, social contract interactions. This may influence criminal behavior and may lead the person to commit crime. And the next one is the containment theory. This theory is a form of control which suggests that series of both internal and external factors contributes to criminal behavior. It assumes that for every individual, there exists a containing external structure and protective internal structure, both of which provide defense, protection, or isolation against crime or delinquency. Containment theory highlights and illustrates that social pressures exist in our lives and they can be predisposed upon individuals. The internal factors when have you are stressed, you have this because of frustration, so you are covered by these emotions that may control your mind to divert your mind to become irrational or to become deviant. External factors, when here comes now the result or impact of the environment that may control your mind to do such acts that are considered forbidden and prohibited by the law. Okay, di ba? When a person is stressed or frustrated, there is a possibility or somehow if they cannot control their emotion, it's the emotion controlling them, the person may become a deviant behavior. And that is an example of internal factors. External factors is when there is an influence caused by the environment that cause you to become a deviant person. Next is the subculture theory by Albert Cohen. He claims that the lower class cannot socialize effectively as the middle class in what is considered appropriate middle class behavior. A good example, let's say for example, I am a poor. Okay, so I cannot mingle or socialize with the middle classes because they are rich. I am nothing. I have nothing. So sometimes there is already a barrier between the lower class and the middle class. They segregate themselves and they will say that the middle class is already their opponent. So what do they do? The lower class gathers together to share their common values, forming a subculture that will reject middle class values. Let's say, for example, it's just because someone in the middle class hurts one of the members of the lower class. So what this person in the lower class will ask those in the lower class to gather together and then ayoko na mga to, grabe yung mga yayaman. Sila ay hampas lupa, sila ay anti-poor. Let us gather together and form a group against these people, against this group, against these families who are belong to the middle class. Next is the mental deficiency theory. It involves the low IQ. It is a mental deficiency is an etiological factor in criminal development. Failure in intellectual development that is marked by low intelligence or mental retardation, and that may result in an inability to function completely in society, or because of they are hardly to comprehend things. They somehow made they cannot comprehend, they cannot think rationally. That makes the people also think irrationally because they cannot comprehend things. Thus, there is a factor that make a person to become deviant. So this will end our discussion for this moment. So wait for the next pre-recorded discussion that will be uploaded in our YouTube channel. Thank you so much, and I do hope that you learn a lot. I want you to, you may review, subscribe, or download this pre-recorded discussion and get your book, get your notes, and then you have to take down notes. You can play anytime you want. You can play uh, twice. You can watch twice until such time that you have completely understood the topics of this our discussion for this uh, for this day. Thank you so much, and God bless to all of you.